Hello, dear friends and dear participants who have participated in this webinar across the country. A very warm welcome to all of you. Let me tell you that this is the second day of the 5 days webinar organized by North Maharashtra University College Research Association, Jalgaon, and Mukta, which is affiliated to Akhil Bharatiya Rashtriya Shakshik Mahasangha, that is ABRSM. It is a series of national level webinar as a learning platform during this pandemic situation of novel COVID-19. Once again, very warm welcome to all the active participants across the country. Friends, today we have very eminent persons for this national level webinar. As an inaugurator, we have Honorable Professor Pradeep Ji Khedkar, who is the President of Akhil Bharatiya Rashtriya Shakshik Mahasangha, Maharashtra State. He is also the President of Vidyapit Shikshak Manch, Amravati University, and Management Council member of Sant Gadge Baba, Amravati, Amravati. Second eminent person in the form of guest is Honorable Principal L.P. Deshmukh, who is Management Council member of Kavaitri Bainabai Chaudhary, North Maharashtra University, Jalgaon, and he is also the principal of one of the reputed colleges of Kavaitri Bainabai Chaudhary, North Maharashtra University, Jalgaon region, that is Nutan Maratha College, Jalgaon. And we have an eminent speaker for today's session. He is from IIT, that is Indian Institute of Technology, Indore, Honorable Dr. Prashantji Kodgire. Not taking much time, myself, Mr. Ajay Patil, Assistant Professor at Arts, Commerce and Science College, Bodwad, on behalf of Yan Mukta, Jalgaon, request the inaugurator, Professor Pradeep Ji Khedkar, to inaugurate the webinar with your auspicious words and share your views in the present scenario. Honorable Pradeep Ji Khedkar, please.
Mike, thank you, sir. Good evening, all participants. अखिल भारतीय राष्ट्रीय शैक्षिक महासंघ की ओर से संलग्नित जनमुक्ता संगठन महाराष्ट्र प्रदेश जलगांव यूनिवर्सिटी आज जो इस राष्ट्रीय वेबिनार जनमुक्ता की ओर से आयोजित किया है और उसमें सभी पार्टिसिपेंट्स जो कि आज यहाँ मौजूद है और अपने अपने YouTube और इस माध्यम से जुड़े हैं, उस सभी का मैं इस वेबिनार में स्वागत करता हूं, अभिनंदन करता हूं और उनको शुभेच्छा देता हूं। जनमुक्ता यह संगठन जरूर टीचर्स यूनियन काम करती है, टीचर यूनियंस के माध्यम से काम करती है, लेकिन अपनी डिमांड के साथ साथ अपने वेतन आयोग के साथ साथ एक एजुकेशन में बदलाव और हमारे टीचर्स के एजुकेशन में बढ़ोतरी करने का काम 5 वर्षों से कर रही है। मुझे हर्ष होता है बताने में कि यन मुक्ता संगठन यह ऐसी एकमेव संगठन है महाराष्ट्र में जो 5 साल से इंटरनेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस आयोजित कर रही है और देश विदेश से सभी लोगों को जोड़ के एक एजुकेशन में बहुत बड़ा बदलाव लाने का काम हमारे महाराष्ट्र से हमारी यन मुक्ता संगठन कर रही है। मैं सभी यन मुक्ता पदाधिकारियों का, खासकर बारिश सर है, बड़गुजर सर है, वानी सर है, भक्कर सर है, इन सभी का अखिल भारतीय राष्ट्रीय शैक्षिक महासंघ महाराष्ट्र प्रदेश की ओर से बहुत बहुत शुभेच्छा देता हूं, उनको अभिनंदन करता हूं और उनका आभार भी व्यक्त करता हूं। आज इसी प्रकार राष्ट्रीय आयोजन के मंथन में यन मुक्ता संगठन ने एक सभा का आयोजन किया है, सुपात्र किया है। निश्चित ही कल के 18 मई 2020 को संपन्न पहले व्याख्यान के कई लोग लाभान्वित हुए हैं। इस दौरान शिक्षकों का सामाजिक दायित्व, उत्तरदायित्व इस विषय पर प्रोफेसर सुरेश पांडे सर जी ने जो मौलिक मार्गदर्शन किया है, इस व्याख्यान के महत्वपूर्ण बिंदु शिक्षकों का सामाजिक उत्तरदायित्व और उसका स्वरूप, भविष्य की चुनौतियां, अवसर, समस्याएं आदि थे। इस व्याख्यान के शिक्षकों को सजग और सचेत रहने की कितनी जरूरत है, इसका लेखा जोखा प्रस्तुत किया है। तो आज के इस व्याख्यान के माध्यम से शिक्षकों को अपने सामाजिक उत्तरदायित्व को निभाते हुए इस वैश्विक अपक्ष के शिक्षा क्षेत्र पर जो दूरगामी परिणाम बने वाला है और उसका परिणाम अंतरराष्ट्रीय और राष्ट्रीय स्तर की गतिविधियों पर होगा, जिसका फलस्वरूप हमें किन किन नई चुनौतियों का सामना करना पड़ सकता है, साथ ही हमें कौन कौन से अवसर प्राप्त होंगे, इस संदर्भ में आज मार्गदर्शन किया जाएगा। साथ ही यहाँ पर एक विचारणीय विषय है कि आने वाले समय में हमें अपना अस्तित्व बनाए रखने और अपने काम को अत्याधुनिक तथा उपादेश बनाने के लिए कौन सी कुशलताएं अर्जित करने की आवश्यकता है, इस दिशा में भी आज के व्याख्यान के माध्यम से सुझाव दिए जाएंगे। पोस्ट कोरोना 19 एकेडमिक सिनेरियो इस विषय पर आयोजित व्याख्यान के प्रमुख मार्गदर्शक डॉक्टर प्रशांत कोटगिरे निश्चित ही आज हम कई महत्वपूर्ण और उपयोगी चीजों के अवगत कराएंगे। मैं इस अवसर पर अखिल भारतीय राष्ट्रीय शैक्षिक महासंघ महाराष्ट्र प्रदेश की ओर से हार्दिक स्वागत करता हूं और उन्हें साधुवाद देता हूं। इस आयोजन के माध्यम से मैं एक तथ्य आप लोगों के समक्ष रखना चाहता हूं कि जिस प्रकार अखिल भारतीय राष्ट्रीय शैक्षिक महासंघ ने राष्ट्रीय और राज्य स्तरीय के विभिन्न आयोजनों के द्वारा शिक्षक और छात्रों के उन्नयन और मार्गदर्शन के लिए सार्थक प्रयास किए हैं, उसी दिशा में आज का आयोजन भी महत्वपूर्ण और मील का पत्थर साबित होगा। इस आयोजन का श्रेय यन मुक्ता को जाता है, जिन्होंने इस बेहद उपयोगी और वंचित विषय पर व्याख्यान आयोजित कर हमें डॉक्टर प्रशांत कोटगिरे जैसे प्रतिभाशाली स्रोतविद को सुनने और सीखने का सुअवसर प्रदान किया है। हमें ऐसे भी महत्वपूर्ण उपादेश, मार्गदर्शक और वांछनीय विषयों पर सुधीर जनों का सुनने और समझने का मौका मिलेगा और निश्चित ही जिसका लाभ शिक्षक और छात्रों को होगा, जो हमारी शिक्षा प्रणाली को समर्थक तथा सक्षम बनाने की दृष्टि से लाभकारी सिद्ध होगा। राष्ट्रीय शैक्षिक महासंघ का ब्रीद वाक्य है, राष्ट्र के हित में शिक्षा, शिक्षा के हित में शिक्षक, शिक्षक के हित में समाज। के हमारे महासंघ के मार्गदर्शक उद्देश्य को साकार करने में महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका इस प्रकार के आयोजन निभाते हुए अपना योगदान देंगे। सफलतापूर्वक आयोजित और अधिकतम विद्वज्जनों की उपस्थिति के सफल सिद्ध होते इस राष्ट्रीय आयोजन के लिए यनमुक्ता के अध्यक्ष प्राध्यापक नितिन बारी और चंद्रशेखर वानी, साथ ही डॉक्टर बड़गुजर सर तथा भक्कर सर ने इस आयोजन को सफल बनाने में अथक परिश्रम लिए हैं। उनका विशेष महत्व है। इन चार महानुभाव के सार्थक प्रयासों के कारण ही संगठन ने इस महत्वपूर्ण गतिविधियों का सफलतापूर्वक आयोजन किया है। इन्हीं प्रयासों और कोशिशों के लिए मैं शैक्षिक महासंघ की ओर से महाराष्ट्र प्रांताध्यक्ष के नाते आप सभी का अभिनंदन करता हूं। साथ ही आपने मुझे इस महत्वपूर्ण मौके पर विद्वज्जनों से विचार विनिमय करने का मौका सुअवसर प्रदान किया, उसके लिए तहे दिल से शुक्रिया अदा करता हूं और आप सभी को भविष्य के लिए ढेर सारी शुभकामनाएं देकर अपने वाणी को विराम देता हूं। धन्यवाद।
Hello. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing your valuable thoughts and blessings with us, Honorable Sir. Thank you very much. Now, I request to our chief guest, Honorable Principal Dr. L.P. Deshmukh, to throw light on the very issue of this national level webinar. Principal Dr. L.P. Deshmukh.
वाणी सर अनम्यूट करा त्यांना. वाणी सर देशमुख सर अनम्यूट करा. हेमंत महाजन आणि जयंत पाटील होत आहे. जयंत पाटील आवाज येतोय का? हाँ सर. हाँ देशमुख सर कंटिन्यू प्लीज.
हेलो.
हाँ सर.
हेलो.
हाँ बोला देशमुख सर, आवाज येतोय.
Now this today's organized webinar conference organized by the Yanmukta. So all the dignitaries are invited. The today's inaugurated by Dr. Pradeep. Now today's speaker Dr. Prashant Kodgire, scientist for IIT Indore, and all the dignitaries. Now today's academic scenario, the most immediate information transformation that the education system is undergoing today is the blending in of educational technology for the purpose of teaching and learning. There are many types, dimensions, and aspects of education. However, the most recent and current immense attention worldwide comes in the form of massive open online courses, means MOOCs, are the future in education and a source of lifelong learning. Of and highlights upon way to improve the awareness among the students. This online courses and its ability and applicability. Hello.
अजय पाटील सर, अजय पाटील सर, देशमुख सरांचा आवाज कसं काय राहून गेलं बघा बरं. अजय पाटील सर, अँकर.
लावता येईल का स्पीकरला? तो काय म्हणतो, युअर स्पीकर इज नॉट वर्किंग, प्लीज चेक युअर कनेक्शन or use in the front speaker.
Hello.
Deshmukh sir, you are audible now. We can hear you.
Hello. Deshmukh sir.
Ajay Patil sir.
Hello. Hello. Shall we go ahead, Honorable Dr. L.P. Deshmukh sir? Okay. Now, the speaker to whom we were awaiting now is with her. Let me give you a brief introduction to the eminent speaker, Honorable Dr. Prashantji Kodgire. Hello, I focus on his education first. He bagged his BSc degree in chemistry, botany, and microbiology from Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Marathwada University, Aurangabad. MSc in microbiology with second merit from Government Institute of Science, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Marathwada University, Aurangabad. And PhD in biotechnology from IIT Bombay. Presently, Dr. Prashantji Kodgire is working as an associate professor and Ramanujan Fellow to IIT Indore from 2012. It is to be honored that Dr. Prashantji Kodgire was postdoctoral scholar at University of Chicago, USA during 2008 to 2012. He was the graduate student of IIT Bombay during 2002 to 2007. He made his graduation in School of Biosciences and Bioengineering, Mumbai. He worked as the research associate at Wockhardt Research Center, Aurangabad during 1999 to 2001. He is the recipient of several fellowships and scholarships like Ramanujan Fellowship from the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India during 2012 to 2017. Irvington Institute's postdoctoral fellowship from the Cancer Research Institute, USA during 2009 to 2012. International postdoctoral fellowship award from the Lady Tata Memorial Trust, UK, for the research in leukemia during 2008-2009. He was also the recipient of Senior Research Fellowship from the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, during 2002 to 2003. He was also the recipient of Junior Research Fellowship from the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, 2002-3. He was also the recipient of Eklavya Scholarship from the Government of Maharashtra, India, for excellency in academics during 1997 to 1999. Now, may I request you, sir, to please share your views on the topic post-COVID-19 academic scenario. Dr. Prashantji Kodgire, please.
Thank you, Professor Patil. Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
We are audible, sir. Please continue, sir.
Great, great. Okay, so thank you, Professor Pradeep Khedkar ji, Principal Dr. L.P. Deshmukh ji for the kind words. I thank Akhil Bharatiya Rashtriya Shakshik Mahasangha as well as Yan Mukta, especially Professor Nitin Bari, Dr. Vani and their team for giving me opportunity to interact with you. It's indeed an honor and a great pleasure to come here. It's a new scenario, evolving scenario, very dynamic situation. And my humble suggestion to the team is that just having one webinar series is not sufficient. And all of us need to meet more frequently, brainstorm, because every day we have a new situation evolving. New situation need novel solutions. And the brightest of mind who are there right now, they are full of ideas, and I am sure they are capable of offering solutions. Please remember that I am one of you. So today I'm just going to be a catalyst for your ideas. I have made a brief presentation which I'll share with you. And then subsequently, we can have some interaction, some discussion about today's topic. Okay, are you able to see my slides?
Yes, sir.
Great, wonderful. 2020 started with some news in China. All of us, we thought that, okay, something is happening there and we are far away and we are not that affected. January and February, we were just mute spectator to what was happening there. We were following some global news and we were able to see that there is something happening. But gradually, that particular virus, let's not go into how it started, who made it, and who is responsible in that debate. But that virus knocked onto our door sometime in February. And government also started reacting to it. All of you are following what is happening. All of you know the cause, the effect, and all of you also know the dimension of this particular issue. Being a molecular biologist and molecular immunologist, let me refresh memory for some of you that what is this COVID pandemic? Human history is full of such pandemic. And this particular slide is telling you history of some prominent pandemics in the documented history of the world. Now the most recent, the red color ball and green color ball. One is of HIV AIDS, which our generation is quite familiar. And then that green color ball is about Spanish flu that happened in 1918, 19 and 20, just after World War I. The size of ball is telling you number of deaths which happened there. And the nearest red color ball is about COVID-19, which we are currently experiencing. And that's why this is an ongoing pandemic. If you represent this same pandemic figure in terms of number of deaths, you will see the size of balls are representing number of deaths which has happened because of those pandemic. And again, this particular small dot is because of death caused by COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2. Compared to COVID-19 deaths, you had more deaths with HIV and AIDS. We had more deaths with Spanish flu. If some of you have followed what has happened in 1918, 19 and 20, almost 100 years ago, a ship of Indian soldiers who participated on behalf of British Army landed in Mumbai. Until that time, there was no case of Spanish flu in India, and gradually within few days or weeks and months, it engulfed whole India. And believe me, 6% of Indian population at that time was dead because of the Spanish flu. And scientists or academicians are now trying to relate that the COVID-19 has a potential as much as the Spanish flu. People talk about something called as R0 value, which will tell you severity of this particular disease. And this particular figure tells you that how infectious is this disease. So there are other brothers of COVID-19, that is the SARS virus, which has reported R0 value of 3.5. And MERS was another brother of novel coronavirus, which had little less infectivity. We had other infections like smallpox or rubella or measles, which had even higher R0 values or infectivity. So COVID-19 is sitting somewhere in between. But there is a lot of difference between then and now. When it was 100 years ago, world was not that connected. The fastest way people used to move was not that fast as like now. Here in 12 hours or 24 hours, you can go from one corner of a country to another corner. Same is true from one village to other village or one corner of a country to other corner. So mobility of people is very high. This whole world has become a small village. People are interdependent on each other. Economies are interdependent on each other. And therefore, a pandemic which just started a few weeks ago in China started knocking on the doors of India. How many people are dying every day in these days? And this particular cartoon depiction will tell you. So the biggest ball over here, almost 50,000 people die because of cardiac diseases. Subsequent to that is cancer, respiratory diseases, other infectious diseases. And at the bottom, you will see a black colored center and red colored ball. That is for COVID-19. So initially there were around almost 2,200 deaths every day. Gradually that number increased to 4,500. And these days, on an average, 7,500 people are dying because of COVID-19. So why we are worried about COVID-19 when almost similar number of people are dying because of road accidents. What is special about COVID-19? Remember that these deaths are after the lockdown. What does that mean? Just after people realize that this is a highly infectious disease, almost all countries, after China, it was South Korea, Taiwan, subsequently countries in Europe like Italy, France, Spain, and then India as well, we started closing down our country, closing down our economy. And therefore, we started sitting in home. Nobody was there on the ground. People were not believing that for known history of human life, local train in Mumbai were never stopped. And since last more than 1 or 2 months, they are not running. So these numbers are small because we are staying inside home. Lockdown 1 and 2 were very stringent, 3 is a bit relaxed, and 4 is much more relaxed. So several countries are opening up, obviously because of economic reasons. People are relaxing lockdown conditions, and therefore we don't know whether these numbers will stay at these few thousand deaths every day or these will increase a lot. Many researchers, statisticians are developing mathematical models, and they are giving future predictions of what is going to happen with number of infections as well as number of deaths. However, accuracy of these predictions are questionable, and because of the dynamics of the problem, the social behavior of people, the economic impact, and so on is going to change the predictions of this death. So when will this COVID-19 pandemic will be over? Nobody has answered. Believe me, even the best of best people and stalwarts in the area, they are not able to comment whether we are able to bring the situation in control or not. And as I mentioned a minute ago, it depends on the social behavior of people, international coordination between the great economies and leaders, what kind of policy they develop, role of WHO, interventions played by them. Because of lockdown, it has a great economic impact, and we have seen pictures of migrant laborers. They are on street walking 100, sometimes thousands of kilometers on foot or whatever the transport vehicle they are able to get. Because of that economic impact, state and local governments as well as central government is going to react, and they're going to relax the lockdown conditions. Relaxation of lockdown conditions will enable social interactions. People will come together, and when they'll come together, they'll also transfer viruses. So the best case scenario, what people are trying to tell is that until and unless there is a therapeutic intervention, we will not have control onto COVID-19. So what kind of therapeutic interventions people are talking about? You have to have a potent drug that will stop growth of COVID-19 virus. And that particular treatment is one option. And alternatively, one need to have a highly efficient vaccine. Thousands of labs across world, including India, including my own institute, IIT Indore, we are working on drugs as well as therapeutics. We are highly optimistic, but history of vaccine has been a story of mixed things. So it's a mixed bag of successes as well as failures. Remember that the highest number of death which I showed in one of the earlier slide is because of HIV or AIDS. We don't have a vaccine for HIV and AIDS because this is a highly mutating virus. Similarly, people are trying to study the new COVID virus, and they have reported that this is also mutating very fast. And if virus is mutating very fast, developing a potent vaccine is also a big challenge. And therefore, people are raising a caution about over dependency on vaccine. Many a times, development of vaccine takes several years. It involves several animal studies and clinical trials. So optimistic way, it takes 1 to 2 years to develop a vaccine. And then is the next challenge of delivering this vaccine to such a populous country. Imagine that even if we have a vaccine and we are able to deliver 1 crore vaccine doses every day and inject to people, still we need almost 6 months to reach the last person in India because our population is around 140 crores. But the scale, the infrastructure to make 1 crore dosage a day is also not easy. And therefore, some people say that this pandemic is going to get converted into an endemic. What does that mean? That means that there'll be a frequent waves of coronavirus SARS-CoV-2. They're going to be there with us. So the way every winter we have common cold or flu coming, every monsoon season we have Vibrio cholerae and Salmonella infections, and we have learned to coexist with them. Similarly, we also need to learn and coexist with this COVID-19. Because of the issue and the gravity of this particular virus, the only solution people thought to save number of lives was something called as flattening of the curve. We have discussed this almost in Feb and March, and we have successfully able to achieve flattening of the curve. What was it? We said that all of us need to do physical distancing. And how do you do that? By locking down the whole country. The main reason for this was that our healthcare system has a limitation of how many patients it can handle and how many intensive care, or in this particular case, how many ventilators are available for somebody to get the therapy, get the treatment is very limited. Situation in small cities, villages, or tribal areas is much worse than into metro cities. And therefore, if we exceed that healthcare system capacity, we will see more fatality rates. And to decrease these fatality rates, what we have done is bending of the curve or flattening of the curve by doing the lockdown. All the economic activities were stopped. Those people were there in whichever city, they were there for almost a month or more, sometime 2 months. And this has also affected the academic institutions. Just after Holi, we were told that all the academic activities, schools, colleges, universities, institutions, coaching institutions, all are going to stop their activities. And we went home, we listened to the government instructions. And resultant of that, India is still in a better shape compared to other regions. So what are the economic impact of these lockdowns? These are some models where they have told that growth in China is almost minus 43%. US is almost similar, minus 42. Europe region is almost similar. UK is almost similar, and India is not far behind. So this particular graph is telling you that how the projection are telling you that because of COVID impact, people will have a lot lesser GDP predictions. China, it is minus 1.5, other countries are even less. And this particular graph is telling you what is going to happen about economic growth in India. So earlier years, our GDP growth rate was almost 6 years. Now it is predicted to be between 4 and 4.5. We are not alone. That is happening with the whole world. Compared to other countries, we are still better, maybe because of we are a saving economy, and Indian people have something different in them. They are fighters. So this COVID-19 has not been untouched to any different individual, any different area, whether it is industries, whether it is businesses, whether it is farming, agriculture, tourism, hotels, or our own area, academics, all of them, they are severely affected. And therefore, people are telling that because we need to learn how to survive with COVID-19 and how to coexist with COVID-19, people say there is something called as a new normal. So what is this new normal? Earlier, we used to go out, we used to go into mall, we used to do shopping, we used to go to melas, we used to go to restaurants, we used to eat on weekends. All that has been stopped. I'm sure many of you, even if restaurants are open, will hesitate, will have inhibitions to go into public places. Last 2 months, we are doing work from home. What does that mean? Our home is our new office. We are doing online teaching from our home. Our kids are learning from our home. Our meetings are happening from our home. And all of you, few hundred to 1,000 people who are attending this webinar are sitting in a home. New thing has happened. When we say home is a new office, our phone has become a new school. There was a time we used to tell our students that cell phones are banned from the classroom. We used to tell that they cannot bring it, or even if they bring it, they have to switch it off. And now the corona pandemic has converted this cell phone into a new school. So in summary, this COVID-19 pandemic had changed the way we live, the way we shop, the way we eat, the way we meet each other, as well as the way we study or the way we do teaching or learning. That means that our learning as well as our teaching need to be reinvented. Academics in India, all of you know that it is at a different level, and each of these are going to get impacted. Whether it is a primary education in schools or higher education in colleges. Going further, technical education into universities or research into institutions, all of them, they need to be reinvented. All of them, they need new solutions. We have to think out of box. I'm sure the learned audience over here have been thinking about these and in fact implementing several different solutions in their own capacity and in their own institutions. So new challenges need novel solutions. In short, we have to develop innovative education system, and this COVID-19 pandemic is giving us that opportunity to develop that 21st century education system. What does that mean? We have to have new classrooms. The sizes will be different. The infrastructures will be different. Why? We need to maintain physical distancing. We may have a student who may have some symptoms like COVID symptoms, and we don't want to keep that student away. So the infrastructure in our universities and colleges need to be changed. Our admission procedure, all of you participate in administration also, you know that the whole admission process takes 2 to 3 months. We cannot afford that. And all of you probably witnessed these long queues where people, they gather in front of university windows and college windows. We cannot do that. So we have to have interventions into the admission procedure, whether it could go online, and if not, cannot go completely online, partially online and partially offline. a major challenge is also there in examination and assessment of our students. Online teaching is relatively easy, but online exam are not at all simple. So how can we have novel solutions for evaluation? Can they be online, or then they can be oral, or you invent some way of doing it in batches? We don't know. Every different area, every different city, every different region has different sets of challenges. And therefore, throughout India, we cannot have same solution. We have to have local solutions so that the impact and the quality of assessment is not diluted. We are still maintaining the quality, but students are still evaluated based on their capability, based on their performance. So in short, because this is an ever-changing scenario, it's a dynamic situation which is changing every day. I'm sure all of you thought that after a couple of lockdowns, numbers will die down. That never happened. Number of cases were not in control in lockdown 1 and 2, and they started exploding in lockdown 3. And we are still relaxing in lockdown 4, so numbers are still going up. Therefore, I feel that the solution for the new academic scenario can be divided into 3 terms. One is a short term, immediate interventions are required because we stopped our curriculum all of a sudden in between. We never had an opportunity to conduct the exams. Somehow we able to complete the syllabus by online courses. So our short-term goal could be that how are we going to conduct exams, or how are we going to handle our immediate need, that is the exams for the last academic session. Next is midterm solution. Because it's an uncertain situation, numbers will vary. We don't know, because the migrant labels, they are moving in lakhs. They're going from different states to other states. They're going from largely from metro cities to small villages and towns. So how is going to be our upcoming semester or the next academic year? We have to have a plan for that. And finally, we should also think about long-term scenario. What is going to be future of education system if this COVID-19 pandemic is going to be an endemic, is going to be there with us for years and years, which is going to change the way we behave. Therefore, we also have to think about what are the long-term solutions for us to offer to the academic institutions. I was reading something, and this was a title picture into New York magazine, which was telling that future is going to be of online learning, and they're going to be something called as cyborg universities. Okay, so the author in this article was trying to tell you that the big giants like Apple, Google, and Microsoft are going to collaborate with the big universities, and we are going to move away from the classical classroom style to a virtual learning, e-learning, or distance learning. Obviously, this article was designed for a US scenario, and situation in India, and that too in rural India, is very, very different. But sooner or later, we are going to go into that particular mode where we have to learn something called as e-learning or online teaching. So if solution is remote learning, are we ready for that? What are the local problems? What are the local challenges? There are a lot of advantages of our current education system. Our education system was based on holistic development of student. We were just not teaching them what is there into book, but we were interested in their intellectual, the mental, the physical, emotional, as well as social abilities. So the current academic scenario was such that there is one-to-one contact between student and a teacher. We are able to see their body language. We are able to learn their facial expression. And accordingly, we are changing the academic content. We are probably going to go fast or we are going to go slow. But the remote learning will not offer these solutions. Our universities and colleges, they were giving a lot of emphasis on cultural and sports activities. How can we have sports and cultural activities via remote learning mode is a challenge. Equity is a big problem. India is a diverse society, and accessibility to these equipments like laptop and smartphones, accessibility to broadband internet, high-speed internet is not same for everybody. Those people who are daily wages people, they are earning not much money. What is their buying power? Can their kids afford these expensive equipments? And whether the government can intervene and can give some subsidy for those people who cannot afford. These are the challenges. And therefore, until and unless we address these issues, education of remote learning and outcome of remote learning is not going to be very high. Very soon, those people who are right now sitting at home, all of us will be also told to go and visit our offices and lab. But schools may not start immediately. So kids of working parents, what do they do with that? They are sitting with a smartphone or a laptop at a home without any elders, are going to create new problems. So there are lots of challenges, and therefore there need to be a lot of brainstorming and solving these issues. Going ahead, challenges of rural and tribal students are even worse. They are relatively poorer than people in metro. So availability of e-learning equipment is a big problem for them. I myself, when I talk to my students before conducting online classes, I asked whether you have it. And they told me that one of those students, he said that I am from a poor family background and I don't have a smartphone. I have an old style key phone. So how can I attend your classes on a key phone? It's not possible for me. Network accessibility is a problem. I have a student from a place in Bihar, and he told me that in his home or nearby place, he is not getting signal. So he has to go into open field. And it's a hot summer. He requested me that, sir, can we have classes at 6 o'clock in the morning? You are trying to have class at 11 o'clock. It's too hot for me. I cannot be there in the open field. So can we have class at 6 o'clock? Internet speed is a problem. These classes, my son is in class 2 and he is participating in online classes, and we are spending 2-3 GB data every day for his classes. So this online teaching is going to consume a lot of data. Are people able to afford that much data for sitting at home and learning? Electricity supply is a problem. I have another student story. This is from somewhere in Uttar Pradesh, eastern Uttar Pradesh. He told me that we have frequent load shedding. My village is not getting 24-hour electricity supply. I have a laptop, but my laptop is old and it can survive for only 1.5 hours for a whole day after one charge. So, sir, please tell me, I have to attend 4 classes. How can I attend? Until and unless I charge my laptop, I cannot participate. There are financial issues. There are issues of accessibility of repair shops. Somebody broke their cell phone and there are no shops who can repair it. So imagine that students are facing problem. When we started this particular meeting, some of you had issues that we were not able to hear some of us. Same thing is going to be happening with our students. When I am conducting online classes, my students are telling that all of a sudden in between, my voice is converted into a machine voice where the speed is very high or very slow. So with all these challenges, especially with the rural and tribal student, we need to come with some solutions where COVID-19 is there, but our education is learning. Our teaching, our classes are going to happen, and we are going to do our duty very faithfully. So what does that mean? This is time to reinvent ourselves. I hope all of you are enjoying the old age serials on Doordarshan. You are watching Ramayana Mahabharata and you are also watching Chanakya. I am a fan of that particular serial and I remember a dialogue from that Chanakya serial that says that उत्थान और पतन शिक्षक की गोदी में खेलते हैं. शिक्षक cannot be helpless. शिक्षक cannot complain. शिक्षक, a teacher, need to give direction. He need to act as a lamppost and guide the whole society. He need to come with solutions. He need to be very optimistic. And therefore, all of us need to reinvent ourselves. Reinventing the whole system. What does that mean? We have to have flexibility in our education modules. You cannot be rigid on the syllabus. We need to compress our syllabus, change the curriculum, whether it is a semester or a year system. We can have credit system. That credit system could be based on their attendance in the online classes. Sitting and listening to these talks when you are not able to physically see a teacher, when there is a lot of background noise in your house, it could be a 1 BHK, 2 BHK house, 4 or 5 people are sharing that and everybody has to have their own space. So if there is a 4-hour class happening, do you want nobody in that house should talk to each other? No, that's not going to happen. So increasing turnover percentage into e-classes is going to be a challenge and we need to reinvent ourselves for that. We have to increase the quality of online teaching because until and unless we don't create quality material for online teaching, that turnover will not increase. Regular classrooms is a participative learning and we have to reinvent ourselves to convert online teaching very participative. COVID-19 scenarios is going to eat up some jobs, but it is also going to create new jobs. So we have to also think about on-campus placement of our students. We have to guide them and we have to tell them that what kind of jobs are going to be made in this new scenario. And are we inculcating the necessary skills for those students so that they're eligible for those particular jobs? Because these are going to be new jobs which need new skill, we have to think about employability of our student into this post-COVID scenario. So if we are rigid, we stick to what we were doing earlier and time is changing, our student will be useless and therefore grading of our student, the perception of our universities, that is going to get affected. I am a biology student and therefore I can give you an example that after Ice Age, dinosaurs were disappeared. But people tell that other species who were able to adapt to the changing environment, they still survive. So there are few species right now which were co-inhabitants in the ice age or before ice age with dinosaurs. They are still there right now. And the reason they are there right now, because they able to reinvent themselves. They were able to adapt to the new situation, the evolving situation. And if we also do the same thing, if we reinvent ourselves, if we adapt to the new scenario, we will be also there for a long, long time. We have to also reinvent ourselves for how can we substitute hands-on training or the laboratory component. Can there be videos where we are able to show students how to perform reactions or experiment on the lab? So you just don't have virtual classroom, but you have to have virtual laboratories. You have to develop new apps for e-learning so that these apps enable participative learning. Students are able to interact, you are able to ask questions, and they're able to give their feedback. If we are able to achieve all these things, then obviously COVID is going to be there. We will not bother by COVID, and we are still able to offer new solutions. Teachers are the backbone of education system. They are the main pillar. And therefore, teachers' training is also required. Our teacher, they are not same, 5 fingers are different. So some of them, they are able to adapt to new system easily, but some, they are not. So they need to told that now this is not your blackboard. Now your blackboard is converted into a laptop, a smartphone, where now your material should be interesting. Material font should be also interesting. You have to use animation so that it is an interactive teaching. How can you have a material which enables participative learning? You cannot have same age-old notes kind of a system for e-learning. You need to develop and generate new content for online teaching. Just scanning your old style notes and converting into a PDF file is not a solution. Each one of you probably need to develop a YouTube channel so that those students who are not getting good high-speed internet, they can visit those YouTube channel and learn to that particular course. So every class is a separate video. If there are, let's say, 40 classes in a particular course, you have a separate playlist for that. And every institute, every class or every course, every university will have several such YouTube channels. I'm not promoting YouTube, but I'm just offering that we have to have out-of-box solutions for handling the post-COVID academic scenario. We have to have frequent webinars for training our teachers. Some of them, they are hesitant. They are not at all friendly or comfortable in doing online teaching. They have their own psychological issues. Some of you have probably heard those WhatsApp forwards where parents are complaining that we have teachers and I'm very sorry that their skills are not appropriate, their pronunciations are not good. What does that mean? Now you are teaching, only student is not listening to you, maybe the whole family is listening to you, and therefore that is give you a little bit more pressure. So these psychological issues need to be addressed, and we have to reinvent into that particular aspects. There is no substitute to a teacher. Teacher will be there, but teacher need to adapt to the new situation. If we don't adapt, we will be thrown out the way Ice Age has thrown out dinosaurs. I have participated into many such interactive sessions or webinars where teachers or administrators were discussing. I think students' feedback is equally important, whether they are able to adapt to the new distance learning, learning on a smartphone or a laptop, learning into this very difficult, fearful situation. So teacher has to play an additional role as a mentor. All of us were doing it, but now this is going to be online mentor, because we need to increase confidence of our student so that they are able to sustain into this fearful pandemic situation. We have to involve these students and understand their concern before online teaching, during online teaching, as well as after every class. What kind of modifications are required? What kind of changes are required for making this e-learning more effective? There is fear because of uncertainty into placement and job scenario. So apart from conducting regular classes online, we may have to do webinars for students to address the psychological issues, to train them that yes, there is a lot of hope, to train them and motivate them to the new learning system, and to adopt them for the new jobs which are going to come because of COVID-19. One big challenge I told you earlier, that examination or evaluation is a big problem. None of us want to compromise quality of our evaluation. We want to maintain quality of evaluation, but there are these restrictions of physical distancing. So how do you handle with this situation? And as I told before, you cannot have one solution for throughout India. You have to have local solutions. Local solution depending on whatever the circumstances available, whatever the facilities available, whatever the infrastructure available. Based on that, we have to develop examination solution. So one suggestion is that can we have first year and second year UG and PG exams only at the college level, and the final year exam is conducted at the university level, the way we used to do it for, let's say, up to 9th. The exams were conducted by the schools, and 10th is conducted by the board. So is that possible for us? Can we change the traditional exam, paper pen exams, with lots of assignments, or oral viva, or even open book examination? I have been involved in online exam and online evaluation. I know it's a big challenge. So how do you ensure that these students are not sitting in a group? How do you ensure that they're not sitting with their notes and reading material? How do you ensure that they don't have other tuition teachers sitting next to them for the exam period, because they are happening from their home? So it's a big challenge for us, that how do you conduct online evaluation? Some mechanism need to be developed for that. You cannot have essay-based examination. So how do you develop MCQ-based evaluation apps for midterm or for conducting quiz? Is also a big challenge. And I'm sure all of you are thinking in direction, and some of you have probably explored and tested some solutions. I strongly suggest those people who are listening, if you have worked on these problems, worked on these challenges, and you have some solutions to offer, please share with other friends. Let others also learn from the benefit and use of your experiments. School, colleges, they have challenges. Similarly, higher education and research, they have altogether different sets of challenges. Classes can be conducted online, but everything cannot be done online. You cannot have manufacturing industry going online. You cannot have our farmers doing online farming. They have to go into field, they have to go into industry. Businessman has to go into his shop and do it. So technical education, which requires access to workshop, access to laboratory, access to high-end equipment. They need to come and share this inhibition of COVID-19. Administrator need to allow them permission to access those laboratories. Just theoretical knowledge is not sufficient. You have to have hands-on training. You want to have your students should go for internship. Imagine that a doctor who has never seen a patient, done all his MBBS, 5 years, via online teaching. Imagine that he or she will get a surgeon degree. Are you willing to go and have your surgery for a person who has not at all touched a live organism? No, before, no. So hands-on training is important. Handling of equipment is important. Students getting exposure into industry, into higher education institutes, and performing internships there is also important. So we have to develop solutions for higher education, technical education, as well as for research, that despite coronavirus still there, quality of this education and quality of the research is not at all compromised. Finally, COVID-19 is also teaching us a lot of things. That is teaching us that respect nature. Some of you have probably seen those videos on Facebook and WhatsApp. That this is somehow a design to restart the environment, restart the Mother Earth, so that it paused. And we have seen that lots of wild animals, they started coming out and venturing into our territory. It was not our territory, it was their territory, but we pushed them back, and they are now trying to recapture their territory. So our teacher has a responsibility to tell our students that it is very important for them to respect nature and to have sustainable development. And we also need to tell our students that COVID-19 is a challenge, but it is also an opportunity. It's an opportunity for reform our education system. It's an opportunity for reinventing ourselves into 21st century. It's an opportunity to shed the unnecessary things, useless procedures. We have seen that our students, they go into university administrative blocks and they take maybe 10 or 20 signature, and many of them, they are not required. So COVID-19 is giving us an opportunity to revamp our system, revamp our procedures, and many things which were done in person can be done online now. This is also giving us an opportunity to develop the infrastructure for e-learning. This is also giving us an opportunity for infrastructure for having classrooms, having laboratories where you are able to also perform physical distancing. So that means you have to develop new tools, new equipments, new apps, which will enable you to do participative teaching. Students are able to ask questions. They are able to get their confusions and queries solved. They are there with you throughout your class, despite sitting few 100 kilometers away in a remote place. There has to have a new mechanism that either offline one-to-one discussion with your student on phone, or using Google Meet, using Skype, using Zoom, whatever platform, or each university can collaborate with different technical giants and develop their own apps which will enable them to do e-learning or distance learning. There were efforts by few institutes and it was limited to them. Local colleges, local universities, they don't have that much funding. Government also need to understand this and education or academic should not be compromised. Imagine that we compromise academics for a few years, whole generation is going to be compromised. The doctors, the engineers, the architects, the accountants, all of them, they will be of low quality, and with low quality people, we cannot have a strong nation. Coronavirus is giving opportunity for India to be a world leader. All of us will remember that saying from Chanakya that उत्थान and पतन शिक्षक की गोदी में खेलते हैं, और हम उत्थान का कारण बनेंगे, हम सॉल्यूशन ऑफर करेंगे, हम पॉजिटिविटी ऑफर करेंगे, हम कंप्लेन नहीं करेंगे, और अपना जो भी कंट्रीब्यूशन होगा वो समाधान की ओर होगा। हम नए नए सुझाव, नए नए सॉल्यूशंस अपने छात्रों को देंगे, अपने एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर्स को देंगे, और अपने जो विद्यार्थी है वो प्रयोगशील विद्यार्थी बनाएंगे, जो अच्छा भारत, नया भारत और कल का भारत बनाने के लिए काम में आएंगे। Thank you very much. There were few people who wanted to say something in between.
Hello.
We can have questions now.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Patil sir, I can hear you.
Sir. It is the time to have open discussion, sir. Hello. It is the time to have an open discussion. The participants may ask questions. Dr. Prashantji Kodgire will have to respond to you. Please, the participants are requested to please share their questions.
Participant, please raise your hands.
The participants are requested to please raise your hands for asking questions. So participants who will raise their hands will be unmuted by the system.
Rekha ma'am, please stop.
इकराच्या कॉलेजमध्ये असोसिएट प्रोफेसर आहे आणि आजचं लेक्चर जे सरांचं झालं, मला असं सांगायचंय की ते खूपच माहितीपूर्ण आणि आमच्यासाठी उपयुक्त असं होतं ह्या लॉकडाऊनच्या काळामध्ये कोविड-19ची हे करत असताना विद्यार्थ्यांची कशा प्रकारे आम्ही हे केलं पाहिजे, आणि मी सरांचे आणि ऑर्गनायझिंग कमिटीचे खूप खूप धन्यवाद.
मॅडम प्लीज माइक म्यूट करोगे आपला?
Shailja Joshi ma'am, please ask your question.
Yes, sir. In this COVID situation, how we can enhance the remote site students, sir? Because they are not having Android phones and all. Hello?
Can you please repeat your question, ma'am?
Hello, sir. Hello?
Yes, you are audible. Please repeat your question.
Yes, sir. How can we enhance our remote site students in this COVID situation for the studies?
Which students?
Because remote students, remote area students, because
Yes.
they are not having a net accessibility, no Android phones, nothing is there with them.
I completely agree with you, and that's why I had a slide about challenges with tribal and rural students. Just not access to equipment, they also need to have access to decent network speed. They also have to access to electricity to charge their phones and devices. Imagine if this would have happened 5 or 10 years ago, we would have been in a worse situation. So let's be positive that lot of interventions have happened in digital age. There is a 2G, 3G access available. Some state governments have scheme of providing tablet or smartphone to college kids. If this situation continues, maybe all the state governments need to think about it, and those who are needy, who are underprivileged, those students need to be given some kind of equipment or a device where they are able to participate in e-learning.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, society and government has a responsibility that nobody is left behind. If we do that, then we are sowing seed for other big problem. Keeping somebody away from education system has never helped India. So we have to involve them, and governments, local administration, universities, as well as society need to come up and help them. These days, smartphones are not very expensive. In a 5,000 rupees, you can get a decent phone which will survive for 2, 3, 4 years. And that can be somehow given to these students who are not having these equipments right now, devices right now. Can we have next question?
You are unmuted now.
Madhuri ma'am, please talk.
Kodugiri sir.
Yes.
I am Dr. Avinash Padugujar. My question is, how to prepare the mindset for the paradigm shift in COVID-19 so far as the teachers are concerned? Even the teachers are not techno-friendly. So how to prepare the mindset of the teachers for this paradigm shift so far as post-COVID-19 is concerned?
Sir, unfortunately, we have some of those teachers, but by and large, teachers are the one who are going to give you direction to society. There was a time, maybe like 50 or 100 years ago, only 3 categories of people were respected in a village: teacher, a doctor, and probably an advocate. So society has a lot of expectations from our community, and we have to survive to their expectations. It's just not changing our mindset. We have a higher responsibility of changing mindset of our student. So maybe more frequent interactive sessions, discussions, webinars, specialized training programs for local teachers is important. They need to be told about the current scenario, the challenges, and they need to be also given offered solutions. I'm sure all of them, they are learned and they'll follow, but attempts need to be made at different levels, at college level, at university level, as well as at state level, where they need to have more such programs where first is changing their mindset. That's not sufficient. They need to develop new content for online teaching. They need to develop, some of them also don't have access to laptop. If you don't have access to laptop or desktop, how can you create a PowerPoint presentation? Right now, they are using their cell phone to do online classes, but access of equipment, devices, and internet to our teachers is also a big issue. And these issues can be sorted out easily by some brainstorming. More webinars are required for them, more interactions are required with them, and they'll be with us. By and large, they are very good.
Dr. Bhaviskar, please talk your question, sir.
Hello. Hello, I'm audible, sir. I'm audible.
Yes, sir, we are audible.
Yes, yes.
I am Dr. Sunil Ganpat Bhaviskar. I am the Secretary of Yan Mukta Dhulia District. I am also serving in Srimati Narmadabai Nago Chaudhary Arts, Commerce and Science College, Kusumba. Sir, Dr. Prashant Kodgire, sir, first of all, I congratulate you that you have a very good session. And on the behalf of my all participants, I thankful of you. I am thankful of you, sir, on the behalf of all participants. Sir, you have discussed a very realistic picture of future education as online education, cyber universities, etc. My question is about reinvention of teachers. Sir, how then the teachers from rural schools and colleges who revive, what should they do in future to survive themselves with all the changes you discuss as difficulties found in rural India? Hello.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your kind words. I had a slide on teachers, and I told there that there is no substitute for a teacher. Teacher is a spinal cord of education system. But remember that you have a competition for a good teacher now. Those teachers who are rigid, who don't want to accept the changing scenario, they will lose job.
Yes.
Now, student feedback will be given a lot of importance. Every teacher will probably have fastest finger first, and they have to evaluate based on that particular class on a fingertip. And that particular evaluation will go to the head of department or the principal or vice chancellor. Based on if students are not able to follow you, administrator will ask for somebody else to come and occupy that space. E-learning has other disadvantages. It will eat up job of a lot of teachers, because now I don't need to have only 30 students in my class. I can have 300.
Okay.
I'll just give you an example. My son is in 3rd class, and he is using Vedantu app. Vedantu, I see there are 1,000 students at a time. They are learning simultaneously using that app. And it's a beautiful app where you can raise your hand, you can participate, you can ask question. Teacher is able to use the audio visual, the videos can be played inside. That's what I'm telling you, that if those teachers are given some of these audio video material by boards or by universities, they can start using that. Sir,
yes, sir.
Infrastructure cost will go down with e-learning. Almost everybody is using WhatsApp because they have smartphone. Yes, a fraction of society still don't have access for good internet, and therefore I told you that solution could be you have a class, most of the students attend on class online, therefore it should be participatory. But if there is somebody who is not able to attend class because of poor network, they have YouTube channel. Same class can be uploaded onto a YouTube channel. Now you can download that YouTube video as per your convenience. Maybe your internet speed is high in the night, and next day morning you can watch that particular missed class. So
thank you.
Attitude of teacher is important. We have to come with positivity and we have to offer solution. If we don't do that, then we will be reason for the patan, not the utthan. And the future generation will blame all of us. We should not do that.
Dr. Yogesh sir, please.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Dr. Yogesh sir, please talk.
Sir, I'm Dr. Yogesh Patil from Arts College, Bamkheda. Dr. Prashant Kodgire sir, let me thank you for presenting a very comprehensive post-COVID-19 scenario, especially educational scenario. But I'm really eager to know, and I'm waiting that you will present a social post-COVID social demands and education in a future webinar. I don't have any question because this is the beginning. I grasped all the things that you made in your presentation, but I am expecting from you that in the next webinar you will present that what are the different challenging post-COVID social demands plus education scenario. So hope that you will make the next presentation. And let me tell our Badgujar sir, the secretary of NMUCTA of North Maharashtra region, that's you have a question that how can you train the teachers? But what you are doing through this series of webinars is you are training all the teachers, and we are getting, we all are getting trained. Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you, Yogesh ji. See, it's the organizers who get all the credit. So they decide the topics, and they also decide who is going to be speaker. So this suggestion is for them.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Mr. Balasaheb, please talk your question, sir. Mr. Balasaheb, sir.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir, we are audible. Please talk your question.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir, we are audible. Please talk your question.
So we are able to hear you. Please tell your question.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, Mr. Balasaheb, we are audible. Please talk your question. Mr. Sarvesh, sir, please talk your question.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we are audible.
Yeah. First of all, I am Sarvesh Wagh, and I am the person in Geographical Information System, right? So my question is that we are doing lots of digital work, digital study, digital all the things. But when we get off with this pandemic situation, we will our child's daughters, we are going them to only digital world. When after this situation, they will not going to outside. They will ask, no, I want mobile, I want laptop, I want TV and a digital classroom only for their health in future. Hello. Hello. So
Yeah, please
how?
continue.
Yeah. Then how we recover them from this situation, sir?
This is a very genuine scenario, just not post-COVID. It is happening right now.
Yes, sir.
Just not with our kids, but it's happening with us. Most of us have now higher screen time, on-screen time. We are using mobile phone or laptop for our meetings. For social networking, we are using, again, these two platforms. For news and entertainment, we are using our TV. So sometimes like 10 to 12 hours we are spending in front of screen, and that is probably not very healthy for our eyes health. Same is true with our students. If they are sitting for their class for 4 or 5 hours and then for their entertainment for another few hours, it is our exam as a parent. This is also now testing our parenting skills. So we need to somehow have a control on them. There are easy solutions. I'll tell you how I do it. I have a particular timetable for my kids. so that when they can attend school and 30 minutes of entertainment. Afterwards, I switch off my internet. Okay. I don't have a dish TV connection in my house, but the smart TV is used in connection with Wi-Fi. So now everybody will not have access to that, but I'm just giving you example. My son or daughter will complain about it, but soon they realize that yes, there are other interactive ways of playing, learning. So they need to go and do activities. All of us also need to spare time for kids so that they can do learning, drawing, painting, music, arts. So yes, but if you are a learned parent, responsible parent, you will come with solution. You know, you are the best person who knows your son or daughter very well, their behavior, their nature, and therefore you are the best solution to offer. So you can very well handle this situation. This is not with the only one kid. It is happening with every other kid. I am worried about something else, that if they are addicted to e-learning, their ability to handle equipments, handle instrument, and have a hands-on training is a big challenge for higher education, technical education. And that's why I gave the example that you have a surgeon who has never done surgery, only seen online surgery on YouTube. Can we go and do our surgery with them? So somehow we have to force our kids to go outside, play. If we have a restricted area, not the public area, and they should do exercise. It's just not there. We also should keep our immunity very high. So yoga, pranayam, Surya Namaskar, and following in Ayurveda. That's why my last slide was that all of us should respect nature. If we do that, if we keep our immunity high, if we ourselves become example, kids will follow. And there is a saying that kids don't learn, kids follow. If they see that their father and mother are sitting with laptop and phone, they'll do the same thing. If we go and do exercise, they'll come and do exercise also. So we have to set the ideals for them. We practice, we follow, and our students as well as our kids will also do the same thing.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, and thank you to organizer to great webinar in our Khandesh. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks to all. Thank you.
Professor Gaikwad, sir, please kindly talk to your question. Professor Leeladhar Gaikwad, sir. डॉक्टर चोपदार.
सर नमस्कार. मी डॉक्टर चोपदार, SSC आर्ट्स अँड कॉमर्स कॉलेज सोलापूर. सर सगळे या वेबिनार मध्ये आपले सगळे प्राध्यापक मंडळी आहात. आपल्या सगळ्यांना माहिती आहे की कॉलेजमध्ये सर आपले 75% हाजरी जी विद्यार्थ्यांची असते ते लावणे किती आपल्याला अवघड जाते. विद्यार्थी वर्गामध्ये येत नाही, हे आपले सध्या वस्तुस्थिती आहेत. तर विद्यार्थ्यांना कॉलेजमध्ये घेऊन येणे हे आपला मोठा प्रश्न आहे. जर या सिनारिओ मध्ये जर आपण विद्यार्थ्यांना ऑनलाईन जर टीचिंग करत असेल तर आहे ते जे अटेंडन्स आहे ते पण सुद्धा कमी होईल. सर माझा एक असा एक प्रश्न आहे, असं काय होईल का?
Very true. That's a challenge everywhere. That's just not challenge in your place. That's challenge in IITs also. Attendance of first year kids is very high, and gradually that drops down. But that is not happening with all classes. I know few teachers who have more than 95% of attendance. So I told you that it is our skills, how interactive we keep them, how interesting we keep, and students, they have that curiosity in their mind. They are interested in learning. They have different degree of curiosity. Some of them, they are very focused, some of them they are not. But it is skill of a teacher how you have your content, how is your delivery, how is your interaction, how you participate your students was a challenge earlier. And that challenge is going to be bigger in online teaching. And that's why I told that all of us need to come with new solutions, that how e-learning can be done participative, how you can have dialogue while there is a class going on without having any disturbance and background noise, how you can have a innovative and interactive content, how you can incorporate audio visual in your e-learning is going to be a challenge. But understand that is going to create new jobs. So if some of your students are very good in developing PowerPoint presentation, generating cartoons, adding background sound, they are doing it on TikTok. Why can't they do it here? So it is for you to give them avenues. It is responsibility of teachers to train our students. I think good teacher, good in terms of teaching and good in terms of their behavior, their personality. Students follow them, they listen to them inside classroom as well as outside classroom. In fact, if
सर माझं म्हणणं असं आहे, ई लर्निंग सर, ई लर्निंग आपण वर्गामध्ये जे आपण जे सांग आपण पीपीटी यूज करू, ऑडिओ व्हिडिओ आणि एनिमेशन्स वगैरे वगैरे हे सगळं काही आपण मॉडर्न जे काही आहे ते यूज करून आपण ते वर्गामध्ये आपण ते यूज करून शिकवू शकतो सर.
यस.
म्हणजे विद्यार्थी वर्गात येणार नाही आहे, विद्यार्थी बाहेर असणार आहे, वर्गाच्या बाहेर असणार आहे तो. ते ऑनलाईन टीचिंग ते वेगळं झाला आणि आपण वर्गात ई लर्निंग म्हणून जे काय मॉडर्न टेक्नॉलॉजी यूज करताय ते वेगळा भाग झाला.
वेदांतू, बायजूस अशा ई लर्निंगचे खूप सारे प्लॅटफॉर्म्स आहेत ज्यांचे तुम्ही एकदा जर विटनेस केलं, 1 तास त्या स्टुडंट सोबत बसला, तुम्हाला कळेल की किती अटेन्शन ग्रॅब करणाऱ्या या इनोव्हेटिव्ह टेक्निक्स आहेत, पार्टिसिपेटिव्ह आहेत. माइंड स्पार्क नावाचं एक एज्युकेशन टूल आहे आणि माझा मुलगा तो वापरतो. माइंड स्पार्क uses game platform for teaching them English and mathematics. Okay, so he enjoys playing game as well as learning mathematics. माझं सांगायचं तात्पर्य असं आहे की innovation is the bottleneck. Teacher cannot be helpless. If teacher is helpless, India will not have good future. Teacher has to be very strong. Teacher has to come with solution. If teacher is helpless, the students are going to be helpless. They are going to be less productive. So you have to adapt to new things, and those people who are rigid, who don't want to adapt to new things, they'll go. And imagine if students, they are not at all interested in learning, who will offer them jobs? So soon they'll also realize that they have to be sincere. If they want good jobs, good packages in decent places, that realization again we have to give them, and they'll come. This is their problem throughout India. I'm telling you, I'm there in IIT, it's there in IIT also. But I'm also telling you that this is not happening with every teacher. It is happening with few. So those few need to do introspection. थोडं आत्मपरीक्षण करायची गरज आहे की आपला क्लास कसा काय इंटरेस्टिंग बनवता येईल. काही शिक्षक, तुम्ही म्हणताय की 70% अटेंडन्स येते, पण काही जणांच्या क्लासमध्ये तर 30%च असते. मग जी हायेस्ट अटेंडन्स आहे कोणाच्या तरी एकाच्या क्लासमध्ये 70%, ती सगळ्यांच्या क्लासमध्ये का नाही येते? 30% विद्यार्थी जे येत नाहीत ठीक आहे, त्यांचा विचार नंतर करू. पण माझा प्रश्न असा आहे की कोणाच्या तरी क्लासमध्ये जर 70% येतात आणि दुसऱ्या एका शिक्षकाच्या क्लासमध्ये 30%च येतात, तर त्या शिक्षकांनी थोडा विचार करावा लागेल की आपल्या टीचिंग मध्ये काय सुधारणा करता येतील, काय क्वालिटी इनपुट्स वाढवता येतील, जेणेकरून माझ्या क्लासची अटेंडन्स पण खूप चांगली राहील. स्टुडंटला क्लास संपल्यानंतर एक असा भाव आला पाहिजे की आज मजा आली, आज खूप छान वाटलं. हे छान वाटलं आणि मजा आलीची जी भावना ज्यावेळेस विद्यार्थ्याच्या मनात येईल ना, मग त्याला वाटेल की नाही पुढच्या क्लासला मला जायचं. ही भावना जोपर्यंत त्याच्या मनात येणार नाहीये, जर आपण तिथे जाऊन कर्मकांड करणार असो तर त्याचा अटेंडन्सवर परिणाम होऊ शकतो.
माझं म्हणणं आहे सर की वर्ग सोडून विद्यार्थ्याला, जे विद्यार्थी घरामध्ये आहे किंवा कुठेतरी आहे ते कॉलेजमध्ये नाही आहे, त्यांना आपण ऑनलाईन पद्धतीने शिकवायचं, हे आपलं म्हणणं आहे ना ऑनलाईन टीचिंग मध्ये.
काही काळ तरी हेच करायला लागेल
हा,
फॉर स्कूल्स अँड
मला
कॉलेजेस.
मला हेच म्हणायचं सर, आपण वर्गामध्ये ई टीचिंग ते वेगळी झाली आणि ऑनलाईन विद्यार्थ्यांना आपण बाहेर शिकवणार, ते विद्यार्थी कॉलेजमध्ये नाही आहे.
बरोबर.
मग माझं म्हणणं हेच आहे फक्त की जे विद्यार्थी कॉलेजमध्ये येत नाही, आपण त्यांना इझिली कॉलेजच्या बाहेर ते ऑनलाईन अगर आपण त्यांना.
Smita ma'am, please talk your question, ma'am. This is last question, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, sir. Dr. Prashant, it was a great session. It was very interesting. What I want to know is, I personally, I'm a professor in Viva College. I would like to ask you this, like you're telling us to reinvent and revamp. My question to you is, sir, regarding the practicals, how, teaching the practicals to the student, because I'm from Department of Zoology, and I guess this would be an hindrance to many of the teachers from the science field, where how you will put forward the practicals, and how feasible it is to conduct examination as well during this COVID lockdown session time. So can you enlighten us on this, how feasible it would be for us to have e-learning, and how interesting it would be for us to have practicals, where we can teach the students to do certain practicals, because at the end of the day, like you have also mentioned in your PPT, the hands-on training would be slightly difficult, but then we still have to come up with certain things. So can you just put light on this particular topic, sir?
Great. So ma'am, for lab components, touching the equipment and getting a feel of it is very important. There is no substitute for that.
Exactly, sir.
But COVID is also giving a new challenge. Now, challenge is that we cannot decide policy. Governments decide policy. If they tell us that okay, schools and colleges will not open, we have to respect it, and all of us are doing it. The solution for that is, I'll tell you a journal. That journal is called as Journal of Visual Experiment. Now, what is done here is, you make a video of your protocol or experiment for a new invention or a new technique. You submit the video, and when you visit that particular website, you have to just watch a video. So this is very popular, especially into my area of research in molecular biology, where the new students who want to learn a technique, they go on to this particular journal, or there are lots of blogs where somebody is making very beautiful movie of how to do experiments.
Exactly, sir.
And that movie can be, for a very short term, a substitute for a lab component. IIT Kanpur, there's a famous professor of physics, Professor H.C. Verma. He received Padma Shri Award this year, and I personally know him. He has developed a lot of content, videos for physics learning for students as well as teachers. So we need to have more H.C. Verma. Every college, every university have Professor H.C. Verma who is generating that kind of content, increasing participation of students as well as teachers in developing that. We have to have new credit system for that. So you tell a student to come to lab, follow social distancing, do the experiment, make a movie, and submit it to university YouTube website.
Okay.
Better the video is, you give more credits to that student, you give more grades to that student. So that's what I'm telling. We have to come with a novel solutions because challenge is also very tough. Coming back to your other question that hands-on training is very important and there is no substitute. I agree with you. And therefore, if you discuss with your friends, you will see two dominant school of thoughts. One who has been in a panic mode, they're telling that shut down everything, isolate themselves, don't talk, don't touch. They clean their house every day. I don't know why, but they do it.
Exactly.
And there is another school who says that don't worry, corona is there everywhere, like any other virus. Nothing will happen. Few deaths will be there, but life will be as usual. I don't know which school is correct, but we need to start higher education, technical education, and research soon, where we have some restrictions. We are following physical distancing. Those people who have SARS symptoms, they will not be allowed to come inside. Every institute has to have a hand wash at the entrance, thermal screening at the entrance, some preliminary health screening, self-declaration. So these things can be evolved where research, technical education can be restarted in India with proper precautions. Now, these are my personal views. And there are people sitting into MHRD in UGC, AICT. I hope these people will also think about, they know much better than us. They have data from across India. But I believe that this will start soon. We will have, at least for PG courses and for research, PhD courses,
Yes, sir.
labs will be accessible to them.
Yes, sir.
But imagine like a primary school where that kid is not aware what to touch, what not to touch. Parents will have hesitation sending their kids. All of us are adults. We know what is danger of this. Even if restaurants are open, we will have a second thought before we go to restaurant. We will avoid, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So it's an evolving situation. Let's pray for that situation will be under control and life will be normal. People will have some wisdom. They will wear mask in public places. They'll follow physical distancing. And by that, we will be able to control the coronavirus.
Thank you, sir. I congratulate once again for this wonderful session. Thank you very much.
Professor Ajay Patil, sir.
Sir.
Please to talk your valuable words.
Hello. Let me tell you, dear friends and participants, that this session was very much comprehensive, very much thought-provoking, and enlightening us. I am here to express vote of thanks on behalf of N-Mukta, Dr. Prashantji Kodgire, Professor Pradeepji Khedkar, Principal Dr. L.P. Deshmukh. These three busiest people were here with us for 2 hours. I express vote of thanks to them for being here with us. Again, I must express vote of thanks to the dear participants who made today's webinar memorable. Thank you very much. And with the kind permission of today's speaker, inaugurator, chief guest, and the organizers, I declare here that today's session is over, and we will meet tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ajay sir.
बारी सर बंद करू इकडून. वाणी सर बंद करू इकडून. हो.
Thank you.